everybody. We've got two very special guests for you all this week. Very please welcome to the show James Massia and Mike Dulce. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for being here. We saw your project coming up on Kickstarter pretty soon, Smokey's Junior Rangers. It looks really exciting. So we're going to be talking about that in a second here. But upon further research, and when people go to your page and they'll see Dren Productions and your website and all the stuff you're doing, do you want to talk a little bit about what's Dren Productions, what do you got going on, and some of the projects and what you've been up to before we talk Smokey?
That's fine.
Yeah.
So Dren Productions is we're a comic book publisher. We do mostly sci-fi, horror, fantasy stuff. We have more than a dozen titles at this point up there. Ranging from stuff that's kid friendly to stuff that is definitely not kid friendly. So we publish a lot of different things like Dungeons and Dimwits, which is our uh, kind of funny role-playing game comic book, and our Flesh-Eating Cheerleaders, which is our adult horror comic book, mature horror comic book. So we have a lot of stuff in there and a whole bunch of stuff in between.
Yeah, and you have some sword and sorcery stuff in there, and I think that's I don't know about you, Chris. I think that's when I first heard about you guys was the Dungeons and Dimwits stuff. I remember that coming up because we're big D&D fans, and that was a really cool project.
Yeah, I know that's a book that I see every week or every month on the list of comics coming to my local comic shop.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely heard that name before.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, if you don't identify with things that happen in that book, you're not playing the game right.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. When I was a DM for a while, it's like you set up all these nice things for happen, and they never take that path.
No.
It never goes that way. Well, that's really cool. I mean, you have a lot of different properties on your website, a lot of cool genres, and I encourage everybody that's listening, watching, to go check out Dren Productions. And now, we saw this project come up on Kickstarter, and it's not your first Kickstarter, Smokey's Junior Rangers. So can you talk a little bit about, this is the first time it says there's been a Smokey the Bear comic in 50 years. So how did this project come about, and how did you guys get into it, to be publishing it and creating it?
So we've been working on it for a year now, actually. We had met with the representatives of Smokey, which had the United States Forest Service.
Yep.
We've met with them, and we got the license from them in May. Well, officially signed it in August of last year, but we met with them in May of last year. We've been working on it since August, little by little, sending it over, getting everything approved by them, and it's finally ready to go out. So we have a completed comic. Smokey is back to teach a new generation of children, how to prevent wildfires.
And I want to say something. I don't know if I've been noticing it. Smokey's had like a resurgence in the last few years. He kind of.
Oh, that'd be good for us.
Yeah.
I hope so.
And I think he had a lapse there for a while, and I think the whole wildfire thing is pretty relevant today. It seems to be happening every summer season in the U.S. But what drove you guys to be like, hey, we want to do a Smokey the Bear comic? Was it just like something that's near and dear to your heart, or?
It kind of just happened, to be honest.
Yeah.
We just started talking with them, and they said, "Hey, we want to get a comic done," and so we said, sure, let's do a comic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. We were talking with the licensing agent, and the licensing world is kind of a whole different world in terms of, it's different than, okay, I have an idea for a comic and I just want to publish it and get it done, and or I have an idea for a comic and I want to pitch it to a publisher. The licensing world, it has a lot of folks who are very corporate, and I don't say that actually in a bad way. These are people; their job is to get their stuff out there, their corporate properties out there into different forms. And it's a great opportunity, for publishers like us to do things that you don't normally get to do. And we grew up. Everyone knows Smokey Bear. And first of all, it's Smokey Bear. We learned this. It's not Smokey the Bear. However, I had to correct myself a million times. Oh yeah, we definitely got yelled at. It's not Smokey the Bear. It's Smokey Bear. We got preemptively yelled at. We got yelled at by the licensing agent to warn us that we will get yelled at if we don't pronounce it correctly. So he was giving us the heads up. He wasn't actually yelling at us, which was kind of him. And we we got into this, and it was like, well, yeah, we'd love to do a Smokey Bear comic. Like we grew up doing that. All right, how are we going to do this? Is how much is it going to cost? Is it going to be, is it something we can do? And they're like, it's just X, Y, and Z, and then you just got to get approval, and then you go. And we're like, okay. And I think it was one of our easiest licenses, right, James? I mean, out of everything we've done,
To get, yes, absolutely.
I mean, it was a really easy process to get, approved. And then, we're dealing with folks that don't necessarily know the comics world and are really leaning on us to do it. And it's been kind of an exciting process, for us. In a way, we kind of feel like we're like getting away with something. We're like, we get to do Smokey Bear comics, and and in terms of creative, they're not. It's they're more worried about the brand appearance,
Yes.
and certain things that which again, as creators, we kind of shrug and think like whatever. To them, it's the most important thing to make sure. What is it, like the belt buckle, right?
Yeah,
Has
the
to be
belt buckle
in view at
Smokey,
all
the hat
times.
says Smokey. That Smokey
Yeah,
doesn't
and
look.
and even if it's a faraway shot, we have to accommodate that. So
Wow.
so there's challenges for us, but at the same time, there's these are like nothing. Meanwhile, we're like, we get to do a Smokey Bear comic. This is great. So it's been an interesting process for sure.
This was something you brought up a little bit there that I lost an hour of my life to this week, because it's always been Smokey Bear. Like
Always been Smokey Bear.
Yeah, I've been saying it wrong my whole life.
I was Googling things, and
It's a Mandela effect.
Yeah, as I was Googling things and looking it up, because I was trying to figure out where the original Smokey Bear comic was, which was, as I found, was a Gold Key comic back 50 or so years ago.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was from the
Everything was
1950s.
just like messing with me online, because I swear the computer was even yelling at me like, it's not Smokey the Bear. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
You can Google
yeah,
it
No,
and
I
still
know.
get all
I
the
mean,
stuff
everyone-
you need, but it'll immediately correct
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they published comics.
Yeah. No,
in
we
the
were
19...
pretty amazed at that.
Sorry.
No, we were pretty amazed by it.
Yes.
Go ahead, James.
So, no, I was saying, you said the Gold Key comic. Yeah, there were two publishers that published it. There was a publisher that did it in the 1950s that did, like, I don't know, like 2 or 3, maybe 4 issues of the comic. And then it was published again in the 70s as more of a cartoony comic, and I believe the 70s one was the Gold Key ones.
Okay, interesting.
And that was the last time Smokey has been published, was the early 1970s.
That's crazy. I would think, you've seen some fairly bigger publishers grabbing a hold of stuff like Captain Planet and some Hanna-Barbera stuffs, and I almost feel like Smokey, as far as popularity, maybe not popularity, but like pop culture and knowing him, growing up in that era, like people know Smokey, right? So this is probably a pretty huge property that I never even knew had comic books, and with a comic book podcast. It's like it's kind of crazy that you guys grabbed a hold of this and you're the next ones to do it. I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, you talked a little bit about like the appearance of Smokey and stuff. Did they hold you to any sort of continuity? Were they like, certain
Oh,
characters?
lost Mike.
Uh, he's back now. There he is. You talked about the licensing stuff, but did they hold you to any continuity? Like you can't do this, you can't have this character, that character, kind of thing.
No, there is no continuity, I guess you can say. And as far as the characters, the only character that they were really concerned about was Smokey.
Okay.
They
Wow.
did offer us, what's his name? It's the owl. Hoots the owl, the one that
Yes.
does
Yep.
the the litter and everything. They offered us that. We said maybe in the future, but we're going to start with just Smokey because it's actually a whole separate license, believe it or
Oh
not.
wow, for Hoots, huh?
So
Damn.
yeah.
That that's so funny. Is they're like, oh man, nobody ever wants Hoots. He's a poor guy.
Well,
That's
no,
so funny.
we might still end up doing that, but we're gonna get a couple of Smokies under our belt first.
All right, we lost Mike, but the show goes on. Um,
So we were talking a little bit about continuity, and James, you said there wasn't much continuity, but are you guys adding? I mean, it is Smokey's Rangers, right? Junior Rangers. Are you adding
Yeah.
some other characters to the fold here?
Yeah, the four kids in the book are going to be the consistent characters moving forward with Smokey,
Okay,
and
and
we might add some more, but as of right now, it's just going to be it's Smokey and the four kids, and then we also added in the new character of the Elder Tree, which is kind of like a kind of teaching force. The oldest tree in the middle of the forest, helps to teach the kids, things that they need to know about,
okay,
so we can expect to
protecting the
see
forest.
somewhat of an educational bend to the story.
Yes and no. I mean, each story is going to be. I mean, each issue, I should say, is going to end up being like a standalone story, and each issue is going to be, a different aspect of, wildfire prevention. So, if you think about it in that sense, then yes, there's going to be a kind of educational aspect to it in each issue.
Was there anything from the licensee that said like these kind of story elements? Did they have any creative ideas to go into it, or were they literally just we want to do something with Smokey? Here, go nuts. Just don't make him kill somebody, or don't make him do these
Yeah.
certain things.
Yeah, no, it's they didn't give us anything like we pitched, and they gave us the rain. They gave us the reins essentially, but they asked us, "Do you want to do the comic?" We said yes, and they're like, "Okay, well, give us some ideas," and so we did. We gave them this idea, which I kind of think of it like one of those like children's series that you'd see on like Nick Jr. or Disney Jr. or something like that. So like I picture like each one of these as like an episode of the show.
okay, yeah, that's a pretty cool way to approach it, I think, and
Yeah.
and it's a fun adventure while teaching a lesson, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is what if you ever watch, I don't know if you have little kids, but if you've watched any of those Nick Jr. or Disney Jr. shows, that's what every episode is.
That's even the stuff
Yeah,
we grew up on was that. I mean,
yeah,
knowing is half the battle. I'm sure I can think of more, but there was always kind of a lesson learning bend to the cartoons we were even watching
yeah. I
growing
think
up.
mine was
Well,
Arthur back in the day.
some
Yeah,
of them, yes.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
yeah, not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but
I learned not
Yeah.
to, fight the Joker. He tends to fight dirty, so.
stay away from. Yeah. Well, great, James. I think it's a really cool project and a really cool approach to the character.
And yeah, I was just curious when you're going through the process. You said this is a year-long process, and
And this one took us a year I mean, like I said, we started in August, so almost a year.
yeah. So when you're making the book, I'm assuming that they have some sort of say over editorial decisions as you're creating it.
Yeah, that's essentially why it took us so long. It's because, like, I submitted, we submitted the story ideas at the end of August last year. They came back to us and said, oh, this is the one that we like the best. Okay, so we went with that one. Then I went and wrote the script for it, submitted that, I think, the beginning of October. Waited to hear back, got the approval for that. I don't know, late October, early November, and started the artwork. And then it was, page by page, with the artwork. This is what we want. Smokey's hat is too big. Doesn't say Smokey on the belt buckle. Over and over and over, back and forth. We had one page that had to be redone because Smokey put his hand on one of the kids, and they're like, "No, no, 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 we can't. No, Smokey doesn't touch anybody."
Wow, really? Oh my god.
Yeah, I was shocked. Whatever. Okay, so we had to change that page. It's
That's kind of crazy.
So yeah, it's been back and forth, and then we finally, I want to say we finished up and got final approval in May for everything. But it's been like I said, that's why it's taken so long, because it's been going back and forth with the U.S. Forest Department, essentially.
Real comics people, right?
Yeah, they are not comics people, but they do what they do. We do what we do.
Your collaborators on this, obviously we all know comics is a collaborative medium, and you have an artist on here. How new was, for instance, the Smokey not touching the kid scenario? He has to redraw an entire page. How well did he take that whole moment, and what lessons did he take from it, or has he dealt with this before too?
He didn't give us any complaints, surprisingly. We went in it at the beginning saying, "Hey, we're probably going to have to redo some of these things." We personally do not get final say. And many times I would tell him "Hey, I think this looks fine, but they're saying it needs this. So can you just make the adjustment?" Many of the adjustments were very, very small. Like I said, the hat was too big. His hand looked too human-like.
Yeah.
The belt buckle a lot of times, and the belt buckle we kept telling them it's going to be this big on the page.
You can't see it.
You're not going to see it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm even looking at one of the pictures you have here we can only see the pre-launch page. Everybody that's listening right now, you can see the full page as is launched yesterday to when you're listening to this. But even that, you can kind of tell it says something on the belt buckle, but
Right, that's my point. It's not even a centimeter, a millimeter. Some of them, and they're "No, it's got to say Smokey." It's okay.
Wow.
Did you ever make the mistake while doing that to have everything fully done, or was it always you sent pencils and said, "Here, approve this, and then we'll move forward"?
Yep. We essentially because we didn't do any of the colors, we sent in all of the pencils to get approval. Once everything got approval, then we went into doing the colors and everything, because we said, the line work is done. Once we get the colors done on this, we cannot go back and do the line work again. So we have to make sure that this is what you're looking for, because once that's done, we cannot go back.
And because this is fairly new to us, we've seen obviously IP driven comics many times and talked to different creators from it, but nobody's seen the business end of it. How does the contract work? Do you guys have a set issues you're allowed to do? Or what can people expect from Smokey Bear moving forward after this issue funds and gets out to people?
Essentially, we have a 3-year contract with the option to renew. That's essentially what it is. So we can put out as many issues as we want in those 3 years, and hopefully it won't take a year for each issue.
Right.
That is one thing I would like to try to get at least 2 done a year.
Yeah, I
to
feel like
be
you had to
honest.
have learned a ton from this process.
Yes, yes, we did. So I'm hoping that, like, after this we can get 2 done a year, so like one every like 6 months or so,
Hmm.
Hmm.
and then move on from there. So, like I said, we have 3 years. So, I mean, our goal is to get 4 or 5 issues done in those 3 years, and then we evaluate and say, hey, we either renew it or we don't.
And I would understand if you didn't want to answer this, but I'm going to ask. As a small press publisher now, you've gone through this, and obviously you plan on doing more inside Smokey Bear in this time frame. Has this made you want to pursue more licensed IPs, or has it kind of shut down the idea moving forward? Like, we'll do Smokey, but
Well,
we're
actually,
good after that.
we actually already have a couple of other licenses. I mean, they're not IPs like this that you might have heard of.
Hmm.
Our one book, AXA, is actually, we're literally just reprinting the comic strips from the 1980s.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Oh,
So we're not even doing any original work with that, other than maybe making a new cover and stuff for it. But we're just reprinting those. We have another licensed property called Death and the Maiden, which is Jasmine Beckett Griffith, who happens to be a Disney artist, one of the Disney artists,
Hmm.
has this whole thing. It's kind of a trippy. I can't even say trippy because Alice in Wonderland is trippy, but it's a it's a more trippy Alice in Wonderland type story, much darker than Alice in Wonderland, but it's kind of in that same vein. But that's hers. We're licensing that because she did a whole bunch of these posters and artwork and paintings and stuff, and she said, I want to make this into a story, so we've made it into a story for her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Judging by the
So we
covers to
have
that
other
one, it's a
licensed
bad trip.
properties, and yeah, and we are looking into getting some other well-known IP.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Smokey's pretty well known.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
just not knowing it's Smokey Bear instead of Smokey the Bear. I think we all learned a lesson today.
Smokey Bear, remember?
Yep, everybody remember. Everybody remember.
And while the focus is the Kickstarter, which everybody can go look at right now, what's I mean, with a license like this, a more popular, bigger spotlight license, did they have anything to say about the whole Kickstarter ecosystem, or they just didn't care?
Nope.
They just wanted you to make this thing because they thought you were doing a
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah. I mean, we made it, clear. I mean, we always start with Kickstarter. That's always our first step, and then we distribute across the country. So we're going to be distributing this one, Smoky twofold. We are going to be doing it into comic book stores. We still have Diamond for the moment, and we are also being distributed by the Filbo distribution rather. Looking to get into like Lunar and stuff also, but right now that's what we have. But we are also going to be in the Smokey Bear catalog. Bet you didn't know they had one of those.
Is a Smokey Bear catalog?
There's a Smokey
no
Bear catalog. It goes out to like all like the national parks and like gift shops and stuff that would, carry,
Oh yeah,
this kind of
gotcha.
stuff. So there's a whole catalog that goes out, and we are going to be in, as of right now, the winter issue of that for this issue.
Oh man, you know there's a bunch of
So
people
that
that
will
travel the
be
parks
in,
that collect those too and stuff.
yeah. So hopefully these will be in, I mean, ideally, will be in all the national parks,
Wow, that's amazing.
like the gift shops and such.
Oh my god, if I was at a national park and there was a comic book in the gift shop, I think that would make my entire trip.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You could say like only comics sold in national parks or something like that. That'd be awesome.
It might very well be. You're right.
This catalog is amazing. Everybody, you can find the Smokey Bear hat, belt buckle, or Mike, if you want to get some fine china for when the in-laws come over, a 5-piece dining set,
That's amazing. I love that.
and soon comic books. So that's awesome.
Hmm.
And I guess kind of to wrap it all up, do you have anything else to say about Smokey Bear, about what the project is going to entail? I mean, we didn't get much into alternate covers or anything like that, but what can people expect when they go to see the project on Kickstarter?
Yeah, there will be a couple of alternate covers. We have 3 covers for this particular issues done. Um, for the most part, it's just going to be the book for this one because of the licensed property and everything. We are not going to have a lot of the bells and whistles with it. Like we had to even get approval just to have the bookmark added. Like like we
Oh,
usually do bookmarks with our Kickstarter. We had to have an addendum added to our contract just so that we could do a bookmark.
That's insane.
So we're gonna do that. We have a couple of digital things that we're going to be adding into people's pledges and stuff on the Kickstarter. Some exclusive stuff that you're not going to be able to get if you buy it in the comic book store in a few months or at the national park. But otherwise, it is going to be the focus on this one. Definitely just the book.
and I'm assuming people could expect to find some of your guys' other comics on there as well to do as add-ons, things like that.
Probably when we hit the pledge manager level, yeah, we'll probably add in some of that stuff too.
Awesome. James, it's been a lot of fun talking Smokey Bear with you today.
Thanks.
Yeah, it has.
If the listeners out there wanted to follow you guys, where's the best place to send them? I mean, social media, obviously Kickstarter. Where do you post the most?
Well, on Facebook and Instagram is where we're most active, and that's just at Dren Productions. Or you go on to drenproductions.com, and there are signups there for our email list and our Substack and everything. So,
And to everybody out there, as always, you can look in the show notes down below to find a lot of that information as well. Most importantly, the link to the Kickstarter campaign so you can check out the book, check out the awesome artwork, and just the fun that is Smokey Junior Rangers. James, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully next time Mike doesn't have technical issues, we can talk more to him. And just appreciate you guys' time.
thank you.